Good morning. I'm Dean Sampson. I'm on the Board of Trustees, and I'm here to tell you all about today's announcements. In November, there's a special collection on November 20th. The November special collection will be Fisheries Christmas Child Campaign, program which provides gifts for families that are in need in Kitsap County. If you would like to receive a tax deduction for your donation, please write a check payable to Cedars UU Church with fish line in the memo. There will be a Cedars, a climate smart challenge on November 21st at 7 o'clock p.m. There are 18 Cedars families who are part of the Climate Smart Challenge, and the get together, I believe it's by Zoom, yes, is on Monday, November 21st at 7 p.m. You can learn about the emphasis on this meeting is learning about electric vehicles. And that is presented by Eric Frederick from Cultura. I don't know who that is. But he will be helping us understand the pros and cons of purchasing an electric vehicle. On Tuesday, November 22nd at 7 p.m. at Rolling Bay Presbyterian Church is the Interfaith Council annual Thanksgiving service. The theme for this year's service is Gratitude to Mother Earth. It will be held at the Rolling Bay Church starting at 7 p.m. And if you need more information, you can reach out to Johanna Munson or Mike Cox. And finally, no, not quite finally, we, Cedars, will be joining the Community Loaves Project, whose mission it is to nurture strong community connections through training empowerment of home-based bakers to reduce hunger and promote wellness. If you are interested, contact Mike Cox. Finally, this is a save the date notice that on November 29th, Super Suppers will be taking place. That is the coalition between Cedars and Kol Shalom Synagogue that provides free dinners to any on Bainbridge whose funds are running low towards the end of the month. We provide hot meals, and it's anybody who wants to come in can have a meal. And we are always welcoming any new volunteers. You can contact me or Penny Brewer. Thank you.
That's a lot of announcements to start us out, and we actually missed a few, so I'm going to add those really quickly. Next Sunday at 4 p.m. at the Bainbridge Museum of Art, there will be an interfaith panel to commemorate Trans Day of Remembrance. So if you happen to be around next Sunday, I hope that you'll join in and be there at the panel. Myself and several other clergy members in the North Kitsap Interfaith Council will be there talking about holding joy and sorrow simultaneously. The second announcement that I wanted to add is that also next Sunday, in addition to the special collection, we're also encouraging folks to bring donations of non-perishable foods to the service. We're going to be collecting canned goods and other non-perishable foods to distribute to both Fishline and Helpline House as one of our social justice outreach activities this month. So, it's a busy time here in our community. Let's take a breath. I want to welcome you to this service. Whether you're here in the room in person or viewing at home or somewhere else online, welcome. I hope you know that you belong here. You have a place here. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness, we welcome you here. In all the ways that you experience and express gender, in the beauty of who and how you love, we welcome you here. With all the religions and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life, we welcome you here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands as we gather together. Welcome. There are a lot of things in my life that make no sense to me at all. And yet, when I gather together with my people in community, I somehow always find a way forward. There are times when reason and logic seem to be thrown by the wayside, and no matter how desperately I hope for those beacons of comfort, they're nowhere to be found. This is life in a postmodern age, an age when meaning is uncertain, and we are called to a new destiny together as human beings. Though the way forward is uncertain, together we will find it. I am certain of this. Together, we will enter a new beginning and embrace our potential for evolution, our collective potential, the potential of transformation that has existed in the core of our being since the first of our kind cried out, since the first of our kind crawled out of the ooze and slime and mundane muck, beginning the story that brought us here. Here into this moment, here together as we seek after meaning, shape what is worth, and tell a story of who and where we are. May we find ourselves in this time and locate ourselves in the intricate web of life that binds us each to each. Come, let us worship together.
Thank you, Peter. That was lovely. From kindergarten through 8th grade, I attended a school called P.K. Young Laboratory School. It was part of the University of Florida School of Education and went all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade, so I'd always assumed that I would graduate from there. But the summer after 8th grade, I still remember this so clearly, I was out on the sailboat with my dad in Penobscot Bay in Maine, and he asked me, would I be willing to leave P.K. Young and go to the local public high school, Gainesville High? I remember thinking it was odd that he would suggest this, but my best friend had just moved to Utah, so we wouldn't be there together, and I had some friends who had left P.K. Young in previous years, so I said yes. I don't remember if he gave me any reasons at that time, but a couple of years later, when we discussed it, he said it was because of the breadth and the depth of the resources available at the public school. My first year at GHS was rough. I tried to find my place in a much larger student body, and as an introvert, that wasn't easy. But somehow, I met some members of a very special group, and it changed my life. That group was band, and was one of the resources that I took full advantage of in high school. Yep, I was a band geek, both marching and symphonic. I'd played recorder for many years and decided to learn clarinet my freshman year so I could join the band my sophomore year. I took summer PE, so I had the required extra free period and dove right in to marching band culture in the fall of 1978. I loved it. Marching practice after school in the hot Florida sun every day, Thursday night extra rehearsals under the lights, then the excitement of gathering at Florida Field on Friday nights or getting on school buses to go to away games. I felt connected and on a mission with my fellow musicians and Flag and Rifle Corps members, and I developed friendships that helped me feel so much better about having changed schools. I was a complete newbie at the art of marching while playing. Yeah, that's an art. Some sore lips there from bouncing on the, anyway. But it didn't take long for the band director, Miss Stark, to see something in me that had her put me in charge of what were called squads. So this was 4 members, and I had the responsibility of teaching them where to go in the formations as we marched and make sure that they had memorized the music. This was within a few weeks of the season starting. The following 2 years, I was made a section head, and now I can see that this was my first experience of what James Luther Adams calls association and action. At first, I joined band just to be in association, but because of what someone saw in me, I was called to action. James Luther Adams was a firm believer in the power of association to expose where we are complacent. I quote, "To be involved with other people so that it costs and so that one exposes the evils of society requires something like conversion, something more than an attitude. It requires a sense that there's something wrong and I must be different from the way I have been," unquote. I could have just been another member of the band, but because Ms. Stark put her faith in me, I developed that sense of conversion, of total devotion to the band community. And now I see that playing out here at Cedars, as I've taken on various roles over the decade or so that I've been a member. I started attending, and soon Sally asked me to be a setup leader, and I said yes. Not much different from being a squad leader. Then I took on team leadership and various other roles, and now here I am, worship associate and team leader for that group. Am I converted? I'd have to say I am, and I'm much the happier for it. Are you at the beginning of your association with Cedars? It's okay to dip a toe in by coming to Sunday services. What if you decided to add in action? I encourage you to be in association with Cedars and get into action by taking part in the variety of activities other than Sunday services. We just heard the long litany of all those. I have 2 more to add. Sunday, the 27th of November, there's a hike in the afternoon at Gosam Lake. And together with Donna Moore, we've been holding this elder spiritual study group using this book, and we're going to be forming another group starting in January. So if you are interested, please talk to me. We've got Drum Circle coming up on the 25th. There's so much going on. If you don't know how to contact people, right, we have Breeze, which is our database of people. Everybody who's a member, friend, gets to access that, so talk to Carolyn Kern in the office if you don't have access to that. Oh, one more, December 8th. Talk to Sally. She's right here, not to Carolyn. Talk to Sally. She'll train you, get you in there. December 8th, Power of the Dog film discussion group. So if you have an idea for something that you would like to do, we can make it happen. They're all on the calendar on the Cedars website, Cedars Church, cedarsuuchurch.org, and also go out in the Beacon. So we have an opportunity to be in action with like-minded people, building community here at Cedars. Adams invites us, quote, to not become complacent in our liberal religion, to not accommodate cultural trends that distort truly liberal values when resistance is called for, unquote. Not all our activities are aimed at resistance, some are. But what do you recognize in yourself that you can bring to this congregation? We saw the effects of association and action in the results of our election last week. So I know that the pushing that many of us did contributed to the preservation of our democracy. So I light our chalice today, hoping that it will light a flame in you to turn yourself towards action. Please join me in reciting our affirmation as printed in the order of service. As we come together to worship, we remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because we are one family, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, and to live lives full of goodness because that is how we will all become the best that we can be. If you would now join us in singing our opening hymn, For All That Is Our Life, number 128.
And please remember to place your masks on for singing, and if you did not bring a mask, we do have some at the back, and they'll be brought, just raise your hand and they can be brought to you if you need one.
Good morning, everyone. There I am. Ooh. I have a big, booming voice. Today, for Time for All Ages, I would like to talk to you all about potential energy. But your first question might be, what the heck is he doing with a ball of yarn on a stick. Well, this is a pendulum. If you don't know what a pendulum is, it's just weight that swings back and forth on a stick. But for today's purposes, I need someone who is an expert in holding a stick with a ball of yarn on it. Could I have a volunteer come up to hold my pendulum? Dean Sampson, resident pendulum holder. Thank you very much. If you could just hold the pendulum out for everyone to see, tilt it a little higher. Yes. All right. So today we're talking about energy, specifically potential energy. Who knows what potential energy is? Dean knows? Dave, you want to let us know?
Sure. It is the energy that is contained in a system that has the potential for being released for work to be done.
I think we could say there's some potential energy in here. Now, who knows what kinetic energy is? Anyone? It is the energy released for motion. It is the moving energy. So one could say that the potential energy moves to release kinetic energy. And here we are, right here. This is our potential energy turning into kinetic energy. Now, it's not quite as simple as that. You see, we are much like a pendulum. We may sit still at times. We may feel that we have no energy, but that's not correct. That is not correct because energy never goes away. If you have felt energy in your life, that energy is still with you. It's still there, building and building. You just might not have recharged your batteries enough to build up enough energy to get swinging again. So, what do we do to build our energy? I mean, everybody hopes that they could have enough energy to swing wild, but you swing for long enough and you get burnt out. You start to slow down and you start to caress into a state of potential energy. I'll tell you one thing I do to get my potential energy back into kinetic. I go on constant walks. If I find myself in a bit of a slump, if I'm not swinging like I did, I go on walks because if I recognize that my energy is still there and I just need to spark it back up, it's almost like one of those new batteries. You gotta get it moving to get it charging. I wonder, what do people do to charge their batteries? Yes? We eat food. That's a pretty good point. If you need energy, what better place to get it than food? Chocolate? That restores some of the mental energy, I think. And a little bit of the energy inside. We have one. Listen to 60s music. The Monkees, anybody? Yeah, no, great. Anyone else? Recharging your batteries in different ways? Clean the kitchen. A place where you need to expend energy to eat food, to build energy, and then expend energy to clean. Sleep? Sleep is important. That is true. Go back to school. That's interesting. That's some very, very creative battery charging. Energy drinks. Sorry? Energy drink. Yeah. Red Bull will work. I had one over here. Come to Cedars. Oh, is that a plant? No. No, that's a very good point. I can feel the energy in here building because we're being nourished. And it's not to say that there's one way to build that energy, but you have to know that energy doesn't go away. It's a law of thermodynamics that energy never disappears, it just goes away. So, however you call your energy back, just know you can still go full swing even if you're resting. So, this week, think, how have I been recharging my batteries? Has that been working? Maybe I need to change the way I recharge my batteries. Maybe I need to go on a walk. Maybe I need to eat some food. Maybe I need to eat some chocolate. Actually, here's a little homework. Everybody go eat some chocolate to recharge their batteries. Tell them I sent you. All right. Thank you, Dean. Big hand for Dean. If you have a pendulum, you know who to call. And now, I would like to call up my volunteer for Chalice Saplings. If you could just wave your hand, Gregory. That's Gregory Cook, and he's my volunteer for Chalice Saplings today, the program we lead for children. And now would be the time where we lead the children off to our daily activity. So, if you're a child, please stand up. Great. Peter, would you play us out? Hey, come on. We're going to go do a fun activity.
Let us notice our breath. Notice the rhythmic in and out, the life-giving flow of oxygen. Bring yourselves into this moment, into the center of your being, into the fullness and truth of who you are. Take this time to let go of those things that do not serve you. Let go of those things that tire you. And trust that for this time, you are held in the love of community, held in the love of the web of life that binds us together. We are in this moment together, seeking after something deeper, something larger than ourselves, something we cannot come to alone. And so here we are in community, raising ourselves up and humbling ourselves together as we seek this something more. Seeking after the us, the we, the y'all, or however we choose to define the collective. The collective hope that is our reality and our salvation. Together we make meaning. Together we create the conditions necessary for us to, quote, be saved. To be saved from climate change, to be saved from racism, to be saved from bigotry and systems of oppression in all of their form. Together, we save each other. We are in this life together. We are bound together. Life only has meaning in relation, in relationship to ourselves, to one another, and the whole of creation. Let us honor this bond. Let us remember this connection. today, and in the days ahead. Amen.
So now it is our time to share our joys and sorrows. This part of the service is not live streamed, but for those of you at home, please take a moment and just speak out loud what is in your heart. For those who are here, you may come forward, state your name and a sentence or two about whatever you would like to share with us today. You can put a stone in the bowl to represent a sorrow and pour some water for joy so that we may hold you in our hearts in this community. Place a stone in the bowl to know that we hold you close in our hearts, and pour a little more water for the joys that remain unspoken. Now please join us in singing our centering hymn, Our World is One World.
Singing all 4 verses.
So we are here in association, and the action I'm going to ask you to take is to open your wallet and share some of your resources with us. If you are a first-time visitor, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. We are simply grateful for your presence here today. Would the ushers please come forward to pass the baskets while Peter plays more beautiful music. Thank you all so much for your generous gifts.
I mentioned a word in my opening words this morning. And that word was postmodern, in this postmodern age. Something that my husband Elliot and I have always disagreed about is postmodernism. I'm a fan of postmodernist theory. He isn't. It's always been that way since we met. At the time, Elliot was in grad school doing his master's in history, and I was an undergrad studying creative writing and philosophy. We found that we had a lot of similar interests when we first started dating, and were generally curious about what the other one was studying, as long as it wasn't postmodernism. The unfortunate thing is that as an English and philosophy major in the 21st century, a lot of the critical theory you use as a lens is postmodernism, and I kind of love it. Over the years, we have grown, and in growing, have learned to find ease in talking about difficult things, those things that you need to talk about with your partner. But postmodernism still isn't one of those things that we can talk about. To give you an example, just last night, without any context at all, I turned from the dining room table and looked at Elliot and asked him, "What's your favorite thing about postmodernism?" This was his response. "I despise postmodernism. I really don't care for it. I've never really wrapped my head around it, but Professor Danisk, my grad school advisor, was a fan of postmodernism. And she was a really important mentor to me, so I guess Professor Danisk is my favorite thing about postmodernism. She used to joke that when she would ask an American student what the capital of Canada was, many of these American students would respond by saying, Toronto. To which she would say, well, no, but you're kind of right in a postmodern way. That was a verbatim quote from last night. So, in case you don't know, the capital of Canada is Ottawa, not Toronto. But what Professor Danisk was referencing was a cultural reality. While Ottawa may be the technical capital of Canada, there is a perception to many, among many, that Toronto is the real place that decision-making happens in Canadian society. So, in the perception of many, Toronto is the capital of Canada. Perhaps it's not the truth that we all would agree with, and it's definitely not the truth that we would find on a road map or atlas if we were traveling. But what is truth except the things that we believe? We believe many things, and over time, those beliefs become ossified or hardened as what we call truth. At times, while something may not be technically true or true in a grand universal sense, it's still really hard to convince others that what they believe is not true. We've seen a lot of this in the recent years. That's the thing, though, about postmodernism. In this view, all things are opened to interpretation, and truth is limited by our own finite experience. The postmodernist perspective invites us into a place of refutation with the master narrative, or rather denies the existence of such a master narrative in the first place. In a book titled The Patterns of Preaching, Minister Reverend John S. McClure is credited with developing a style of preaching known as the postmodernist approach to preaching. According to Reverend McClure, one of the most permeating insights of postmodernism is the recognition that every perception is an act of interpretation. That every perception is an act of interpretation. Because individuals and communities are different, all interpretations differ. Therefore, the preacher must recognize that all statements and claims are negotiations of positions within a larger communicative field. That is, that all of the claims in a postmodernist context that a preacher like myself makes are part of a larger communication. They are an invitation into a wrestling. Anthony Espethal and Kate McGowan add to this understanding of postmodernism, saying, in a sense, postmodernism is the complex paradox mode of art or of knowledge that seeks to debate the present, seeks to debate the present from a position within it. It's a paradox that seeks to debate the present, this very moment, from within the location of this very moment. And through such a debate, come into a space of questioning and processing. For those who embrace the postmodern view, its power lies in its capacity to dissolve the previously held assumptions. Essentially, whether in literary theory, preaching, or other aspects of human life, postmodernism is a philosophy that rejects an overarching story and instead invites us into a space of questioning and wrestling. Personally, I'm rather fond of this idea, of the paradox that seeks to debate itself from within itself. I think I'm drawn to this idea because it reminds me of what we seek to do as a faith community. To come together in the present moment and to seek to debate those things in life and to wrestle with them and find our way forward. Whether in worship or in all the other activities that we have talked about today, we come together as a community to question, debate, and listen. It's our way. It's how we make sense of things. It's how we expand that finite perspective that we hold as an individual and instead learn to hold it collectively. Our goal isn't to impose a master narrative or belief upon any one of you, or to have such a belief or narrative imposed upon us. Rather, Our goal is to be present and respond in the moment to what is emerging. When I reflect on these qualities of postmodernism in conjunction with our own Unitarian Universalist tradition, I can't help but notice a few similarities between the features of postmodernism that I have named and the theology articulated by Unitarian minister James Luther Adams. Specifically, James Luther Adams' understanding of free association and the call to action that comes out of the association. If we think about what it means to be associated, the word has an implication of being in relationship with someone else. We are associated, we are together somehow. Each of us is associated with other people. As individuals, we are associated with our family, our friend group, those of us in this room, and really the world at large, including those people we might consider rivals or even flat-out enemies. In JLA's view, however, this association is foundational to what it means to be human. He writes that voluntary association at its best offers an institutional framework within which the give and take of decisions may be brought under criticism and subjected to change. That it is through association, through coming into communities, the ideas that we hold can be brought into criticism and then subjected to change. Criticism, I think, is often taken to be something negative, but perhaps you've been in a setting in the past where you've received constructive criticism, or feedback is another way of talking about criticism. For James Luther Adams, it is about coming into this space with our ideas and sharing our ideas and being open to the feedback we receive from others, and through that feedback, change. It is in relationship with one another that we are shaped, changed, and transformed, and it is from this relational place that we are called into action. And through action, we shape, change, and transform our world. In both the postmodern view and JLA's view of association, the meaning of things is found in relationship. But JLA takes this principle of association one step further, adding that action is a natural outgrowth of association. JLA held that all response is social action in the broad sense. That all response, everything that we do in response to what happens in community, is a type of social action. Every association causes us to act in some way in the world. But what is different about us as a church community, according to James Luther Adams, is that as a church community, we are a covenantal community. We are a covenantal association, which means that we have come together and agreed on certain principles and values that will be central to our interactions. And we have agreed to come into this space, associate with one another, draw on these values, and from drawing on those values and associations, move into action. I think that's why Unitarian Universalists are committed to social justice. Our religion, our theology, our history calls us to be together, and through being together, enter into action. Also embedded in JLA's analysis of association and action is this idea that those in a position of power have an obligation to use that power, not abdicate it. For James Luther Adams, to have power and choose not to use it was to be irresponsible. Some people talk about privilege. Privilege is a type of power. I've heard the the phrase of leveraging your privilege. When you are in a place of privilege and have an opportunity to use that privilege to change a system of oppression, we use our privilege. We use our power. To not use our position, our location, our power in such a way is to be irresponsible. But the good thing is that we don't do it alone. That's why we are here. That's why we are here together in association, a group, a gathering of people who are called together and through being together, called into action. May our relationships, our association with each other, call us into deeper commitment to justice and action in the world. May it be so, to the glory of life. I'd like to invite us to rise as you are willing and able, to don your singing masks as we prepare to sing our closing hymn of the day. Hymn number 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation.
So we will now extinguish our flame, and please recite the words with me as printed in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our service has ended, but our service to the world and one another begins anew. As we go forth, may we remember the good news that we are not alone. Amen. Oh.